This video is about book formatting with Scrivener. We're going to consider two situations. One is starting a novel from scratch, and the other is preparing a novel that you've already written all or part of in Scrivener. Before watching this video, it's a good idea to see the other two videos, book formatting from scratch and book formatting from a .doc file. Those will cover a lot of the basics, show you the general process of uploading and formatting to Nepo Press to create ebooks, a MOBI file, an EPUB file, and also a camera-ready PDF for publishing through CreateSpace to publish paperback books. So please watch those two videos first. Now let's take the case of a novel written from scratch in Scrivener. Here we have Scrivener open already. I'll open a new project. First thing to do, if you haven't done it already, is to download the Nepo Press template for Scrivener and then install it in Scrivener. Click on Options, click on Import Templates, find the template, Nepo Press template, click on Import, and it shows up under the fiction category, Nepo Press template. So select the Nepo Press template and click Choose. Now this is on the Mac version of Scrivener. The Windows version will be similar, but there'll be certain differences in just how you do this. Click on Choose. Now we have our new project. Give it a name. Test 3. Whatever. And then click on Create. The first time you do this, just format the template. You don't have to make any changes at all. In fact, I recommend that you not make any changes. It'll have a title page, a copyright page, a contents tag that'll generate a table of contents automatically. It'll have some additional settings, and then it has a chapter as a folder with files under it for the individual scenes, just filled with a lot of boilerplate just to give you something to format, and then finally an About the Author chapter. So don't make any changes yet to this. Just go ahead and format it. Because we've started this from that template, the Scrivener settings are already set up for you. So we'll just compile it. Click on this, compile for export or print. The template's already set up to export it, compile for plain text. We're going to include all the chapters, all the scenes. We don't need page breaks before. We've set up some things already. For the separators, we have a custom separator for any files. These would be the files like the scene files, to automatically put a scene tag between them. The other files will just have an empty line. The other files and folders will just have an empty line as a separator. Under Formatting, in this scheme, we're using folders to represent the chapters, files under a folder to represent the scenes. But you could also have put all the scenes right into the body of the folder. But the level 1+ here, this is the folder. We're going to include the title. That's because we'll take the title from the chapter, from the folder's title, rather than from content inside the folder. So we click on Title. We make sure this is checked. Of course, we want the text, so we make sure that's checked. I say all this is set up for you already in the template. We have added a section layout to prefix the title with an asterisk and a space. So that's already set up. So when you export as plain text, this will plug in the asterisk that marks a chapter title automatically. So you won't have to do that as you edit your Scrivener manuscript. We're ready to export. Click on Compile. pick a name. We'd opened a dummy project named test3.scriv, so we're going to export this as test3.text. Click on the export button, and there we go. We should have our new test3.text in our file browser, and that would be ready to upload to Nepo Press. And click on the buttons. You have a Mobi button to make a Mobi file, an EPUB button to make an EPUB file, and a PDF button to make a camera-ready PDF. I suggest you do that. Take a look at it in your web browser or download it to your PC to see what you get, see how it works as you get familiar with this. Then, of course, you'd go into the details here. You'd edit your title page. You'd replace My Romantic Thriller with the actual title of your book. You'd replace the author name. You'd replace your name with the author name, and so forth. So that's about it. When you're starting a novel from scratch, you just be sure you've selected the Nepo Press template and basically start typing. Now, what do you do, though, if you have an existing novel? Well, it's nearly as easy to do that. Let's take a look at a dummy existing novel. This will be called Roman 2. It's set up with 3 chapters. And in this case, we're not using files underneath the chapters for the scenes. We're just putting the entire body of the chapter inside the folder. And we've marked scene breaks with a pound sign. Here's chapter 2. It has 2 scene breaks. Chapter 3, a little bit shorter. So from watching the other videos, you know that what we have to do eventually is to get an asterisk at the beginning of each chapter title to mark it as a chapter. And we need to get italicized words surrounded with asterisks. And we need to get these scene breaks marked with scene tags. As I showed with the novel from scratch, the Scrivener template, the Nepo Press template for Scrivener, is already set up to plug in scene break tags, to plug in the leading asterisk in a space to mark all your chapter titles. So we don't really have to do very much to bring in an existing Scrivener manuscript. The first thing to do is to set up a new project, and let's call this new project Roman 3. We're going to click on File, New Project. We've already installed the Scrivener templates. We click on Fiction. Make sure the Nepo Press template is selected. Click on Choose. We'll give this a name of Roman 3. And then we create that. It already exists because I've created it previously, but we're going to replace it with this. And here's our template, just as we saw a few minutes ago with starting a novel from scratch. Because you have an existing novel, you're not going to need these fake scenes. So I'm going to move those to the trash. You could drag it or you right-click and move to trash. Then we're going to import the existing manuscript into this new one. The existing manuscript was Roman 2. The new one we're creating is Roman 3. Click on File. Click on Import. Click on Import Scrivener Project. So it's File, Import, Scrivener Project. Then choose the project we want, which is roman2.scriv. Click on Import. And here it is. Here's the imported file, the imported manuscript. And we're interested in everything under the draft folder. Now, in your manuscript, you might have named it something other than draft. You might have given the draft folder a different name, such as the title of your book. Doesn't matter. We want the folders under it. We'll highlight all of them. And with a left-click drag, we'll just drag them up. We'd like them to be probably between the template's beginning chapters and the About the Author chapter. And then let go with the left mouse button. And there we've merged the chapters of your real book into this template. So this is most of what you need to do. However, we still have several things that have to be marked because we didn't have the scene in separate files, in which case when we export to plain text, the scene tags would be plugged in automatically for us. We're going to have to convert these to scene tags. Or, instead, you can delete them and you can split your file to create individual files for each scene. Depending on how you're used to Scrivener, you do whichever is more comfortable for you. For this example, we're going to convert those to scene tags. We also have to mark the italics and bold. Here's some italicized examples, and here's a bold word. You don't have to mark your chapter titles with the asterisk because with this Nepo Press template, when you export, the asterisk will be added to that automatically, so you don't have to do anything there. So really, the essence of what you have to do is to mark the italicized words and the bold words and the scene breaks. Fortunately, with search and replace, find and replace, this can be fairly easy to do. So let's do that. Let's first of all catch all of our scene breaks. Let's highlight the body of your book that might have them. And let's click on Edit, Find. We're looking for, in this example, we're looking for the pound sign, and we want to replace that with a scene tag. Now, if you like a visible separator at your scene breaks, you can add a space and then an asterisk, or a space and a pound sign, or a space and several asterisks, or just whatever you'd like. If you want just a blank extra vertical space between scenes, you would just use a scene tag like that. So that's what I'm going to do to start with, just like that. You could step through these one by one, clicking on Next and then clicking on Replace. Or you can replace them in one fell swoop with Replace All. It rather depends on whether you've used any pound signs anywhere else in your manuscript. Well, we have very few, so we'll go through these one by one. Well, next, replace. Next, replace. Next, replace. Next, and we're done. That was all. So we're through replacing the scene tags. The next thing is to replace the italics. This is a little trickier because the find and replace dialog doesn't really have any way for us to find the italics. So if you have a newer version of Scrivener, the Mac version, that has this facility I'm about to show you, you can still do it. Remember, what we want is we want to put asterisks around each of the italicized words or phrases. Let's get rid of that for the moment. We can search for italicized words with Edit, Find by formatting. Then choose Character Format, leave the containing text blank, and make sure just the I is highlighted. If you have bold and the B for bold, I for italics, if you have them both highlighted, it will only find words that are both italicized and bolded. So we want to find just the italicized words, so make sure just the I is highlighted. We click Next, it should find our first italicized word or phrase, and it did. That's good. Let's find the next one. It did. That's good. Let's find the next one. Well, it did, but that's not so good. The problem is, and I did this on purpose to illustrate it, more than just the phrase is italicized. There's actually an ending space that's included in the italics. Let's go. In other words, if you had added something like this, let's make sure we've turned italics off there. Okay. Suppose you want the first part of this in italics. Here's how you should have done it ideally. You only mark what you want in italics, and then you click the I button, and it turns into italics. But if you went too far, if you included that space, and then you click the I button, you've got a little too much in italics. The problem is you have to mark the italics with the asterisk butted right up against the word or phrase, not after a space. So let's suppose that you don't have very many with that problem, and you have a Scrivener on the Mac. You can do this. Click on Format, click on Convert, click on Bold and Italics to Multi-Markdown Syntax, and click there. Unfortunately, this option is not available in the Windows version of Scrivener, but we'll do this. It will show you what happens. Click on that. Presto, it has put asterisks around our words just like we wanted. Here and here, but here we have a problem. We have some white space, in this case a line feed, and then here we have another problem. We've included that extra space. So if you have just a few of these, it's not a serious problem. Just go in, delete the blank space so that the asterisk is butted up right against the word or phrase. Go in here, delete the blank space. Of course, you need a blank space after it. So you can do this editing by hand if you just have 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 places. But if you have 1,400 of these in your manuscript, if you have 30 of these, it's going to get tedious. So this is where it's difficult to do all of this in Scrivener if you have lots of these situations. However, there's an easy solution to this. So if you do have this problem, before bringing these into your new project, go back to your original Scrivener project and export it as a doc file. We're going to use LibreOffice to very quickly mark the italics and bold. Then we're going to import that doc file back into Scrivener. But when we import it, we're going to import it with import and split. So we're going to have to give it something to split on. So before we export, as we export, we click on Compile. All of our chapters are in folders. We're going to set up, we only have folders, so folders is the only one we need to worry about. But go ahead and make sure all these separators are set to be an empty line, except for the folder separator. For the folder separator, select Custom. Then you have to give it something that you're not using elsewhere in your manuscript. This example uses 3% signs in a row. You could use almost anything you want, just that's not used elsewhere in your manuscript. Now we compile it as a Microsoft Word .doc file. Click Compile. Choose its name. Let's call this Roman2.doc. Our novel is Roman2.scriv. We're going to export it as Roman2.doc. Click on Export. I've done this before, so it's going to say, do I want to replace it? Yes. Replace it. Now this in a doc file format will bring up LibreOffice. You could do this in Microsoft Word, but LibreOffice is free. It's very easy to install on Windows or on Mac, and it has some very nice features. And in addition to that, the other video I mentioned, book formatting from a .doc file, uses LibreOffice for its step-by-step examples of exactly how you mark the italics and so forth. So we'll open this in LibreOffice, File, Open Document, Roman2.doc, and here it is. Now notice when we exported it, it included the chapter title taken from the folder title, and it marked the break between chapters with those 3% signs. You could have used a different marker if you wanted to. And here's another break between chapters marked with the 3% signs. That's important because we'll use those to separate into separate folders when we re-import this into Scrivener. So then, go through, following the video, book formatting from a .doc file. You'll rapidly go through this and you'll take care of marking all the italics and marking the bold. That video also shows how to mark the chapter titles with a leading asterisk and a space like that. But you don't need to do that because you're going to re-import into Scrivener, and Scrivener is already set up to insert that asterisk and space for each chapter title for you automatically. So we don't need to do that. All you need to do is take care of the other steps in that video. You don't even need to turn off the headers and the footers. This will work just fine like this. So let's suppose we had gone through and marked the italics. I'll just do a few by hand rather than show the process with the search and replace. And the bold, of course, is marked with 2 asterisks. As I say, you'd go through your manuscript and do these bold and italic markings in one fell swoop with the search and replace. Okay, that should take care of it for our example. We're in LibreOffice. We'll save it, File, make sure the name's what we want, save to .doc, yes, click on Save. All right. Now we're ready to set up our new Scrivener project. File, New Project. We've already installed the template, so click on Fiction and choose the Nepo Press template. Click on Choose. We'll call this Roman 3. Click on Create. It already exists, but I'm replacing it. Yes, replace. It could not be created because I had the old one open. So let's find that old one and close it. So we'll open a new project. We'll click on Nepo Press template, click on choose, we'll give it the name Roman 3, click on create. It already exists, but we do want to replace it. Click on replace. Now we have our template. We're not going to need the dummy chapter with its boilerplate fake text, so I'll again highlight those three and right click and move to trash. Now we're ready to import the doc file. Click on file, click on import. This time, since we're not importing a Scrivener project, we're importing a doc file. Click on import and split. Choose the file we want, which is roman2.doc. Put in the marker we used when we wrote it out. We used the 3% signs as a separator. Make sure that matches. Click on import. It's importing. And here we go. It's imported our 3 chapters, but it's imported them as files underneath the folder. That's not a problem. We highlight them. We right-click, click on Convert to Folder. Now they're folders. Unfortunately, they are subordinate to the About the Author chapter. So let's see if we can, and we probably like them to be above the About the Author chapter. We'll highlight them, left-click drag, and drag them up. See the thin blue line. And now we have them no longer subordinate to another folder. They're right where they should go. And the benefit of using LibreOffice if you have lots of italics, especially you have lots of italics where the boundary of the italicized phrase extends past where it should have extended, is that's very rapid to fix in LibreOffice. The downside is when you bring this in, these chapters have a chapter title inside the body, but we decided to pick up the chapter title from the folder name. So you would have to go through and delete those chapter titles that are inside. And it so happens that all of these are in bold, so you might just search for bold to find them quickly in the whole document. But nevertheless, when you're proofreading, if you find that some chapter appears to be named twice, just delete the name inside the chapter. You'll still have to do a few things. You probably have already created a title page. You'll probably go up to this title page in the template and put your information in it, and then delete the original title page. In other words, merge your title page information in the title page folder. Take a look at the copyright page, make any changes you need here. You can drag this folder up or down to wherever you want the table of contents to appear. Table of contents will be created automatically. You have the Nepo Press settings that I think I mentioned earlier. And the other videos go into more detail on this. Basically, it lets you set up the trim size and your margins and whatnot for the camera-ready PDF if you're making a paperback. You get to decide whether you want drop caps on or off. If you don't want them on, you just edit that so it says off. Start tag determines where your book will open on an e-reader. for e-readers that respect the start tag, you can have it open at your introduction or have it open at your first chapter or wherever. The main matter tag is placed where we want the page numbers to begin in a PDF. And then the rest of your novel already in there. And that's about all there is to it. Now, because we're using the Nepo Press template, when you export this, you'll export it as plain text. Click Compile. It will create the text file that you need. It exists, so you'll replace it. Then in the file browser, you'll see you have the new version of your manuscript as a text file, and that's the one you upload to Nepo Press. So that covers how to deal with writing a novel from scratch in Scrivener, and also how to import an existing Scrivener novel into a new Scrivener project using the template for formatting an existing novel. Be sure to watch the other two videos if you haven't watched them yet, and thank you for watching.